So obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding your summit at Baxter State Park. What would you say is the biggest misconception about what happened on that afternoon? And if given the opportunity to go back and do anything differently, would you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is again, don't think I was, above the rules or felt like I needed special consideration because I had broke a record or because I was, going after this record, or I'm a runner, not, a through hiker who's doing it traditionally and staying in my own tent and sleeping along the trail. I essentially, started that morning or that midday hike, much like any other hiker, where I was going up and it was my wife's birthday. I was finishing the trail. I knew I would break the record unless something unforeseen happened on the trail. And I was just trying to enjoy it. And a buddy of mine surprises me with a bottle of champagne, who he actually checked in and said, "Hey, would this be okay?" The rangers at the bottom, they said yes. So it was one of those things where I had no idea what was happening. He hands it to me, and it was just a natural reflex to celebrate, much like I think a lot of thru hikers do. And it was just unfortunate that it unfolded in a way where I was falsely accused of things I didn't do, such as I had basically a group of 12. That was the legal limit, and that was of course said that I didn't have 12. There were a lot of people up there, wanting to see me finish, who didn't even know what was going on until they had gotten to the top. People said, "Hey, yeah, this guy's finishing the record, and he'll be up here." So people stuck around, and there were people that joined me along the way, and that was kind of out of my control. The other element too was, as far as the champagne and littering, it was just kind of shocking. I mean, I get the fact where, yeah, if everybody spilled beverages at the top of the mountain, it may not, be the best, but at the same time, I wasn't doing anything wrong in that regard. So I wish in the end that Baxter State Park had communicated with me in a professional manner, instead of attacking me, instead of saying I did things that I didn't do, and just use me to further their causes. It's like everybody wants to work together. Everybody wants to have a wonderful experience atop Katahdin. Unfortunately, when you have 200 people that could be summiting on a day, it's not a wilderness experience of solitude, but it's one that everybody can enjoy. And nobody was offended at me finishing, and anybody who was there would realize it was a real quiet celebration. It wasn't a ruckus party or anything like that. So I wish we had communicated properly, and I could have gotten the message out to other thru hikers, like, "Hey, I should have brought champagne up to the top. It sounds like I had, violated a rule that I wasn't aware of, and we should be aware of those rules." And we could have educated hikers. Instead, attacked me and falsely accused me for things I didn't do. So, and then it just made me seem like I was ruining it for future thru hikers by saying, "Oh, we're going to move the terminus of the Appalachian Trail," which in the end, I don't think they'd want to do that. I mean, they make money off it. So it's like they make money off of thru hikers. I think thru hikers come across as being people that don't appreciate the wilderness and don't pay their fair share. For whatever reason, we get labeled as freeloaders. They even have nicknames. They call us trail trash and that sort of thing. But we bring a lot to these communities, and I think there are a lot of positives that come about through hiking and the whole experience. And Baxter State Park does benefit from thru hikers and the money that they provide through permits and camp fees. And maybe there are some people who do break rules, who party too hard, or who maybe freeload. But for the most part, I think the thru hiking community is a community that really supports, I think, the same goals of something like Baxter State Park is trying to achieve.
Right.
So it's really like we should come together and not fight each other.
I totally agree. Especially the thru hikers that make it to that point in the journey. I think the ones that are known for being more rule breakers are more likely to fall off somewhere in the middle of their attempt. Anyone who can make it 2,200 miles usually forms a kinship with nature and is less likely to be doing something.
Definitely. And we all want to, everybody wants to have a better experience out there. So I think let's keep history the same, and let's let everybody enjoy that and find a way to solve an issue that might be a problem, rather than say we're just going to flat out move the terminus and then blame it on somebody like me or some individuals who again, may actually be breaking the rules or selectively enforcing. That's the thing too. I was the only one who got tickets that day. And there are plenty of people who are up there having a beer or having their own beverage of choice. Yep. But I was the one who got fined and ticketed for drinking in public. So that's what's kind of unfortunate, where if you're going to enforce a rule, make sure you're enforcing it on everyone.
Yep. Do you foresee the AT speed record becoming a more popular goal for the ultra running community?
I think, it's a special task, and one that somebody has to be up for the challenge. I think there's always some popularity with some of the long trails. It does spur some excitement and energy around it. But again, it does take a huge endeavor. And for me, it took a lot of years before I was ready mentally and physically to do something like that. And it does take a lot of sacrifice, finding the help and the support. So while it will become somewhat more popularized, how many people will actually set off for it is hard to say. It's just like in the thru-hiking community, how many people will take on the challenge, like Jennifer Var Davis or, Andrew Thompson and David Horton and Heather Anderson and Matt Kirk and these individuals who have come before me and set bars high. But it takes a special person, and the timing has to be right. Yeah. So I don't think you'll see hundreds of people now hoarding to the Appalachian Trail trying to set record.
Okay, so I just have a couple of fan questions here before I let you go. One person asks, can you tell us about your support crew? How big was your team, and what were the roles, etc.?
So it was predominantly my wife, Jenny, who is like the main. She basically saw me from start to finish. I had several friends. My buddy Luis Escobar came out in the beginning and helped Jenny. David Horton came out several times. Andrew Thompson had even come out in New Hampshire for a day and a half, which was really fun. And so I had these individuals who joined me, and then I had my good buddies at the end, including my buddy Walter Edwards and Kim and Toph Gaylord and Chrissy Mail, who joined me because I really needed them in key situations. And again, Jenny and I were trying to strike that balance of asking friends to come and help, but at the same point, it's summer and everybody has their schedules, and it's hard to keep that organized. So she had the tough task of okay, people are coming out, where they're going to come and meet us, and which airport they're flying into, or where they're driving from, and that becomes more complicated. So we tried to simplify it. I think the largest the group got was probably 6 or 8 people. And that was probably towards the end, because we had help in New Hampshire where fellow trail runners had come out to help, and thru-hikers, and they helped carry some of my sleeping gear so I could sleep on the trail at nights. And then there was also the group in Maine that came out, the Trail Monsters, and again, another trail running group that was super supportive, and I couldn't have done it without their help. So we relied upon, good friends that came out at key points. Carl Meltzer was instrumental too. I mentioned him earlier, how he came out and kind of just helped Jenny and I really think differently about crewing and the approach on the Appalachian Trail. So he came out for a whole 2 weeks. So it was really neat to see how somebody, like Carl, who's attempted it twice and has finished the Appalachian Trail once, he was just so into helping somebody like myself. And there was, even though we're competitors, we're good buddies too. And I think that was a cool experience.
And he's going after the record next year, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be out there helping him. Okay. I think that's the key thing to show, is there's this camaraderie amongst us all. And I hope he does. And I think that's what records are made to be broken. Yeah. I think that's the cool thing. So the whole supported element of an FKT really should be one. There's a lot of energy going on, and people have different personalities, and how do you balance all of that? But it was probably hardest for Jenny to manage all those elements. And really, like I said, it really comes down to being organized, but then also being able to problem solve and think on your feet, because a lot of things get changed along the way.
My last question for you is, and you touched on this earlier, but do you have any interest or intent in thru-hiking another trail at a non-FKT pace, just for the leisure of it, the joy of hiking?
Definitely. Like Jenny and I talk about, we're doing sections of the Pacific Crest Trail right now, and just because we haven't dedicated, a full 3-4 months to it, but we talk about, if something, changed and we had the opportunity, we just go for it and do it all in one shot. But for right now, we're doing sections, and at this rate, we're doing essentially 1 week a year, which we're going to have to up the ante. Otherwise, it'll be a 20-year project. But
sure.
We're just doing it. And I think that's the key thing to convey to people too, is even if you can't commit to which is great, 4 to 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
you can still get a thru hiker experience by going out and doing, say a large section, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's 1 week or 2 weeks, and just experiencing the trail and picking times too when you're going to run into other thru hikers if you want that experience.
Right.
The Pacific Crest Trail, we tried to do that too in Southern California, where the water caches are so critical.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's fun too, is then you get that experience. And ideally, yes, you'd go out and do it for 6 months. But I tell people, don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Get out there however you can, even if it's a weekend or a few days.
Yeah. That's great advice. Scott, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate picking your brain for a few minutes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be here, and keep up the good work.